The sun dipped low over the red rocks of Sedona, casting long shadows across the cabin where my family had gathered for our annual vacation. I was supposed to feel joy and relaxation, but instead, a tension brewed beneath the surface. My partner, Mark, had been distant lately, lost in his own world. Each time I reached out to him, he seemed preoccupied, absorbed in his phone or staring out at the stunning landscape without really seeing it. As the evening approached, my cousin's son, Jake, caught my eye from across the room. He was in his early 20s, tall and athletic with a boyish charm that reminded me of summers spent with family when we were younger. Our gazes locked for a moment longer than necessary before I quickly looked away. I felt a flutter of something forbidden in my chest but pushed it down. This was not how I wanted to spend our family vacation. "Let's take a walk," Jake said suddenly, breaking the silence that had enveloped us. His voice was casual, but there was an intensity behind it that sent shivers down my spine. My heart raced as I glanced at Mark, who was now engaged in conversation with my mother about dinner plans. "It'll be nice to see the sunset," Jake added with an inviting smile. I hesitated but ultimately nodded. The idea of escaping the confines of the cabin, even for just a moment, felt liberating. We stepped outside into the cool air and began walking along a narrow trail that wound through towering pines and vibrant wildflowers. The beauty of Sedona enveloped us as we walked side by side in silence. With each step, I felt myself relax more. The weight of family expectations faded slightly as we ventured deeper into nature's embrace. Jake pointed out different plants and animals along the way, his enthusiasm infectious. I found myself laughing at his stories about childhood adventures while growing up with our families intertwined. Yet beneath that laughter lay an undercurrent of tension, an awareness of how wrong this felt. My mind raced with thoughts of Mark waiting back at the cabin and what he would think if he knew where I was and who I was with. Suddenly, Jake stopped walking and turned to face me directly. "You seem different this year," he said softly, studying my expression closely. "Is everything okay with you?" I opened my mouth to respond but found no words came out. Instead, I felt something shift between us, a connection that went beyond mere familial ties. It frightened me yet intrigued me all at once. Before I could collect myself or even think about stepping back from this moment, Jake leaned closer and brushed his lips against mine lightly, a fleeting touch that sent shockwaves through me. My heart raced as reality crashed back in. What were we doing? This was wrong on so many levels. Just then, Mark called out from behind us as he emerged from the cabin's shadowy entrance. "Hey, Emma. Where are you?" His voice broke through our bubble like glass shattering on concrete. Panic surged through me as Jake quickly stepped back, his eyes wide with shock and regret mirrored on my face too. We exchanged glances filled with unspoken words before turning toward Mark together. I just needed some fresh air," I stammered awkwardly while trying to mask what had just happened between us. Mark approached slowly, looking between us suspiciously before shrugging it off as nothing more than typical family dynamics, the kind that often unfolded during these vacations filled with nostalgia and emotional baggage. But inside me churned a storm of confusion and guilt over what had just occurred, a secret neither Jake nor I could afford to acknowledge openly without consequences looming ahead like dark clouds threatening rain. As we returned to the cabin together under fading light, the weight of our actions hanging heavily between us, I couldn't shake off how much had changed within those few stolen moments outside among nature's beauty. Later that night during dinner preparations in the rustic kitchen filled with laughter from other relatives gathered around, a sense of dread settled deep within me as Mark suggested splitting up for activities tomorrow while others went hiking or visited local markets nearby. "Why don't you take some time alone?" he proposed lightly while chopping vegetables for our meal together. It sounded innocent enough but set off alarm bells inside my head. Alone time meant potential encounters, more opportunities for secrets hidden away behind closed doors where no one could see or hear what transpired between Jake and me again if fate allowed it so. I forced a smile at Mark's suggestion while glancing toward Jake across the table, his expression unreadable now amidst chatter surrounding us all, wondering if tomorrow would bring more temptation or lead us further down this dangerous path we'd begun unwittingly wandering together. The night wore on uneasily as conversations flowed around me like water over rocks, each ripple reminding me just how fragile everything felt now after tonight's encounter. And yet amid all this chaos brewing within my heart, the thought lingered, could one moment change everything? I stood by the window, watching the sun dip below the red rocks of Sedona. My heart raced as I recalled the warmth of his lips against mine. The kiss felt like a spark igniting something deep within me, something I had tried to ignore for too long. The laughter from my family echoed in the background, but all I could think about was him. "Are you okay?" My partner's voice pulled me back to reality. He had noticed my distraction, and I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. "You seem distant." "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. The weight of our unspoken issues hung heavily between us, but I couldn't focus on that now. Not when thoughts of my cousin's son consumed my mind. As dinner wrapped up, I excused myself under the pretense of needing fresh air. Outside, the cool evening air brushed against my skin, refreshing yet unnerving. I wandered toward the edge of the porch, where shadows danced under the soft glow of string lights. That's when I saw him, leaning against a tree at the edge of our property. "Hey," he said softly, his eyes sparkling with mischief and something deeper. "Hey," I whispered back, feeling an electric thrill at his presence. The world around us faded away as we stepped closer together. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. The innocence in his question contrasted sharply with what had just happened between us. "Just a family," I replied hesitantly, unsure how to articulate this strange connection we shared without revealing too much. He laughed lightly, breaking some of the tension hanging in the air. "Family can be complicated." His gaze lingered on me for a moment longer than necessary. Suddenly, laughter erupted from inside the cabin. My mother was telling one of her classic stories again. It reminded me that our families were intertwined in ways that made this whole situation feel even more forbidden. "Let's go for a walk," he suggested suddenly, glancing back toward the house as if checking for prying eyes. My heart raced at the thought of being alone with him again. We slipped into the trees behind our cabin, where shadows enveloped us like a secret cloak. The silence was thick with anticipation as we walked side by side along a narrow path lined with wildflowers swaying gently in the evening breeze. "It's beautiful here," I said quietly to break the tension. "Yeah," he agreed softly before turning to look at me directly. "But not as beautiful as you." My breath caught in my throat at his words. They hung between us like an unbreakable bond forged in that moment alone together. Then he took another step closer until our bodies almost touched. And then it happened again. Our lips met softly at first before deepening into something more urgent and desperate. Nos besamos, like it was both an act of rebellion and surrender at once. We pulled apart suddenly as if realizing what we had just done and how wrong it felt amid our family's laughter echoing nearby. The thrill receded quickly into fear. Guilt washed over me like ice water splashing against warm skin. "What are we doing?" I breathed out shakily, stepping back slightly to regain some distance between us. "I don't know," he admitted honestly while running a hand through his hair nervously. "But it feels right." The words hung heavy between us again, the allure mingling with dread as reality crept back into focus around us like fog rolling in from nowhere. Just then, laughter erupted from inside again, this time accompanied by footsteps approaching outside. Panic surged through me as we exchanged wide-eyed glances before darting behind a nearby bush just seconds before my mother emerged onto the porch with her glass raised high in celebration of some trivial family victory or another. "Who wants to play charades?" she called out cheerfully into the night air without any idea how close she'd come to discovering our secret rendezvous only moments ago. I felt my heart race anew, not just from fear but also excitement mixed with dread as memories flooded back. How quickly everything had changed since that first kiss moments ago. And yet now there was no turning back either way, without consequences looming ahead like thunderclouds ready to burst forth at any moment. "We should go back," I whispered urgently after glancing toward him once more. His expression mirrored mine, a mix of longing and apprehension swirling together like storm clouds gathering above us, both now filled with unspoken emotions threatening to spill over uncontrollably any second now. As we made our way back towards safety inside those walls filled with familial warmth, the very essence holding everything together, I couldn't shake off this feeling that things would never be quite right again after tonight. And then came another twist. When we returned inside, everyone was gathered around playing charades already. My mother animatedly acting out her latest guess while laughing uncontrollably alongside my partner, who seemed oblivious to what had just transpired outside moments ago. It felt surreal watching them enjoy themselves while knowing how fragile everything truly was underneath all their laughter, the stakes rising higher than ever before, and yet somehow still managing to keep up appearances even though deep down inside, I knew it wouldn't last much longer without someone discovering our secret. As the evening progressed, I felt the weight of my secret pressing down on me. The laughter around the room echoed, but it felt distant, like a faint melody playing while I stood in a dark corner. My cousin's son and I exchanged glances, our silent understanding thickening the air between us. I could still feel the warmth of his lips from our last kiss lingering on my skin. During dinner, we found ourselves seated across from each other. The table was filled with colorful dishes, tamales, enchiladas, and fresh guacamole that my mother had prepared. My heart raced as I caught him stealing glances at me between bites. "Did you try the guacamole?" he asked casually, though we both knew there was more to our interaction than just food. "Yeah, it's great," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady while feeling a rush of conflicting emotions. Our fingers brushed against each other as we reached for the same tortilla chip. In that fleeting moment, the world around us faded away, and all I could focus on was him, his smile, his laughter. We shared a secret laugh about something silly that had happened earlier in the day, and for just a heartbeat, everything felt right. But then reality crashed back in as my mother cleared her throat loudly to get everyone's attention. "How about we play a game after dinner?" she proposed enthusiastically. My stomach dropped at the thought of being trapped in a game night with everyone so close together, especially with him sitting right across from me. "No problem," he replied with a grin that made my heart race again. "I'll help set up." He stood up quickly, and as he walked towards the living room, he glanced back at me over his shoulder. That look sent shivers down my spine. It was filled with mischief and unspoken promises. I helped clear the table while stealing glances at him as he arranged chairs in front of the fireplace. The crackling flames cast flickering shadows on his face. He looked almost ethereal in that light. Just then, I heard my partner's voice behind me. "You seem distracted tonight." His tone was light but held an edge that made me uneasy. "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, avoiding eye contact as guilt washed over me like cold water. My partner raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. Instead, he turned his attention to helping my mother bring out snacks for later. As we all settled into our seats for game night, I felt like I was holding my breath, waiting for something to break this delicate balance we had created. The game began innocently enough. Everyone laughed and shouted guesses across the room. But every time he leaned closer to whisper something funny or make a joke meant just for me, it became harder to focus on anything else. Midway through the first round of charades, I glanced at him only to find him already looking at me intently. Our eyes locked for a moment too long before someone shouted out an answer loudly enough to pull us back into reality. "What if we just left?" he whispered under his breath when no one was paying attention. "Are you crazy?" My heart raced at his suggestion, It was reckless but thrilling all at once. "Just think about it," he urged softly with an intensity that made my pulse quicken even more. Before I could respond or consider what such an escape would mean for us both, the door swung open violently as one of our relatives burst into the room holding a bottle of wine they had picked up from town earlier that day. "Who's ready for some fun?" she exclaimed cheerfully without noticing anything unusual between us. The moment passed like smoke dissipating into thin air. Our chance slipped away just like that. As laughter erupted again around us and glasses clinked together in celebration of another round of games ahead, I felt more trapped than ever before by this web of secrets surrounding me. Later that night, after everyone had retreated to their rooms and silence enveloped the house like a heavy blanket, I found myself outside on the porch staring up at the stars twinkling above Sedona's red rocks. He joined me moments later. His presence ignited something deep within me once more despite knowing how dangerous this was becoming. "Why do you keep doing this?" he asked quietly after a few moments of comfortable silence passed between us. "I don't know," I admitted honestly while staring off into space where constellations danced overhead, a stark contrast against everything happening below them here on Earth where choices were made with consequences looming large over our heads like dark clouds threatening rain. He stepped closer until our shoulders brushed against each other, a subtle reminder of how real this connection had grown despite its forbidden nature looming above it all like an ominous shadow waiting to strike when least expected. Just then, my mother's voice echoed from inside, "Emma, can you come help with something?" The moment shattered instantly. Panic surged through me as reality crashed back down again around us both like waves crashing against jagged rocks along shorelines far away. "We should go inside," he said reluctantly after hearing her call out again, his tone laced with disappointment mirroring mine perfectly too. But as we turned towards heading back indoors, I couldn't shake off this feeling gnawing at my gut, that everything might change soon enough if we didn't find some way out before it was too late. The storm raged outside, and the power flickered off, plunging us into darkness. I felt a rush of adrenaline as we moved deeper into the shadows of the cabin. The sound of thunder seemed to echo my racing heart. We had just shared a moment that felt like a secret world, and now we were enveloped in uncertainty. "Let's go to the back porch," he suggested, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. I nodded, feeling an electric thrill at the thought of being alone with him again. We stepped outside, where the rain poured down like a curtain, isolating us from everyone else inside. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. As we leaned against the railing, I could see his face illuminated by flashes of lightning. "I can't believe we spent the night together," I admitted softly, recalling our shared laughter and whispered secrets under the stars. He smiled, but it quickly faded as he looked away into the stormy night. "I don't want this to end," he said quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "But what if someone finds out?" The weight of his words hung heavy between us. I felt torn. Our connection was undeniable yet fraught with danger. Just then, my mother's voice called out from inside, breaking through our bubble of intimacy. "Emma, come help me find some candles." Panic surged through me as I realized how close we were to being discovered. We exchanged a quick glance filled with unspoken understanding before heading back indoors. Inside, my partner sat near the fireplace, looking concerned but also irritated by my prolonged absence. "Where were you?" he asked pointedly as I walked in with my cousin's son right behind me. The tension in the room thickened instantly. Everyone could sense something was off. "I was just helping him find a flashlight," I replied too quickly, hoping to deflect suspicion. My mother raised an eyebrow but didn't press further as she continued searching for candles in a drawer nearby. As we gathered around the flickering light of candles once they were found, laughter erupted among family members trying to lighten the mood despite the raging storm outside. But all I could think about was how close I'd come to losing everything, my family's trust and my own moral compass. Later that evening, after everyone had settled down for bed and silence enveloped the house once more, he found me in the dimly lit kitchen where I stood pouring myself a glass of water. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. His eyes searched mine for reassurance. "Now? What if someone hears?" I whispered urgently as my heart raced again at his proximity. "I need to know where we stand," he said firmly but gently. "This can't just be fun for you." His words struck deep, they echoed my own fears and desires back at me. I took a breath before responding carefully. "I care about you, but this is complicated." My voice trembled slightly as I spoke those words aloud for the first time. He stepped closer, lowering his voice even further. "What if we just let it happen? Just for now?" The intensity in his gaze made it hard to think clearly. My instincts screamed at me to pull away while simultaneously urging me forward into this uncharted territory. Before I could answer him or even process what that meant for us both amidst all that chaos brewing around us, a sudden loud knock on the front door startled us both into silence. My heart sank instantly. Who could be arriving at this hour? "Emma. Can you get that?" my mother called from her room down the hall without waiting for an answer. With dread pooling in my stomach, I opened the door cautiously only to find one of our relatives standing there soaked from head to toe, clearly having braved through harsh weather conditions outside just to reach us. "We need your help," they exclaimed breathlessly before stepping inside and shaking off water like a dog would after swimming, completely oblivious to what had almost transpired moments ago between us. As they hurriedly explained their reasons for coming over, something about checking on another family member, I glanced back at him across the room and saw disappointment etched on his face as reality crashed back down around us like thunderclaps outside. The moment had slipped away like sand through fingers, lost amidst family obligations and unexpected interruptions that came crashing into our lives uninvited yet again. The tension in the room was palpable, and I felt my heart race. My partner's probing gaze lingered on me, as if he could sense the secrets I held. I could barely focus on the conversation happening around us. My cousin's son stood just a few feet away, his expression a mix of frustration and longing, mirroring my own turmoil. "Are you okay?" my partner asked, his voice low but filled with concern. I nodded, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than a genuine expression. The laughter from my family echoed in the background, but it only amplified my sense of isolation. I needed to escape this moment, to breathe without the weight of scrutiny hanging over me. I glanced at him again. He caught my eye and subtly tilted his head toward the back door. A silent invitation to step outside, away from prying eyes. My heart raced at the thought of being alone with him again, even if just for a moment. "Let's go for a walk," I whispered to him when an opportunity arose. We slipped out into the cool evening air, leaving behind the chaotic noise of family chatter and laughter. The sky was painted with hues of orange and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. We walked side by side in silence for a while, both lost in our thoughts until he broke it. "I've been thinking about that old photo album," he said softly. "It brought back so many memories." I smiled at the thought of it, flipping through pages filled with laughter and family moments long past. "Yeah, it was nice to see those again," I replied, feeling nostalgia wash over me. As we strolled further down the path leading away from the cabin, he stopped suddenly and pulled out an old photograph from his pocket, a picture of us as children, grinning widely at some family gathering years ago. "Remember this?" he asked. "Of course," I said with a laugh that felt bittersweet now. "We were inseparable back then." His gaze turned serious as he studied my face. "Do you think we're still that close?" The question hung between us like an unspoken truth waiting to be acknowledged. I hesitated before answering because what we shared now was undeniably different, more intense yet fraught with danger. "I'd like to think so," I finally replied, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. He stepped closer, searching for something in my eyes that made me feel exposed yet exhilarated at once. Before I could process what was happening next, he shared a personal story about his childhood dreams and how they had shifted over time due to expectations from family, expectations that weighed heavily on both our shoulders now. As he spoke, I realized how much we had both changed since those carefree days spent laughing together in our youth. A connection sparked between us again, a familiarity that felt comforting yet terrifying all at once. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a reminder of reality crashing back down around us like thunderclaps outside moments earlier. It was a message from my partner asking where I had gone and expressing concern about my behavior lately. "Let's head back," I suggested reluctantly. Every step felt heavier than before as we turned toward the cabin once more. Upon entering, I found everyone gathered around the dining table preparing for dinner, my mother bustling about in her usual way while exchanging casual banter with other family members. The warmth from inside engulfed me but did little to ease the chill creeping up my spine as guilt settled into my stomach like lead. My partner looked up immediately upon seeing me return. There was an intensity in his gaze that made me uneasy yet stirred something deep within me at the same time. "Where were you two?" he asked pointedly as if trying to decipher our absence during dinner preparations. "Just taking a stroll down by the creek," I replied too quickly while avoiding eye contact with him or anyone else who might sense any tension lingering between us. My mother glanced over her shoulder briefly but returned her focus to setting plates on the table without pressing further. A small relief washed over me knowing she hadn't picked up on anything amiss, yet. Dinner progressed uneventfully until laughter erupted when someone recounted an embarrassing childhood story involving all of us. It lightened the mood momentarily but only served as a stark reminder of how fragile everything felt beneath its surface. Later that evening after dinner concluded and dishes were cleared away, the atmosphere shifted again when my partner approached me quietly outside near where we had walked earlier tonight, his expression unreadable yet serious enough to make my heart race anew. "I need to talk," he said firmly but softly enough not to draw attention from others nearby who were still engaged in conversation indoors. Before I could respond or even comprehend what might follow next, I heard footsteps approaching rapidly behind us. It was one of our relatives coming out looking for something they had forgotten inside. My pulse quickened as panic surged through me. Every instinct screamed for caution while simultaneously igniting flames of desire deep within, a dangerous combination threatening everything we had built thus far. As we exchanged hurried glances filled with unspoken words, I realized just how precarious this situation had become, and how much more precarious it would get if secrets continued unraveling amidst our tight-knit family fabric. The evening air felt heavy with anticipation as I tried to gather my thoughts. The laughter from the living room echoed in my ears, blending with the distant sounds of nature outside. My heart raced at the thought of what had just happened between us. We had shared moments that felt like stolen treasures, and now I feared they might all come crashing down. "Are you okay?" he whispered, concern etched across his face. I nodded, but uncertainty gnawed at me. The thrill of our connection was intoxicating, yet the weight of secrecy pressed heavily on my chest. I glanced towards the door, half expecting my mother to walk in at any moment and shatter our fragile bubble. "Let's go outside for a bit," he suggested, his voice barely above a whisper. The thought of stepping into the cool night air seemed like a welcome escape from the tension inside. We slipped out onto the porch, where starlight danced above us, illuminating our hidden world for just a moment longer. As we stood side by side, I felt an electric charge in the air between us. "Remember when we used to play hide and seek here?" he asked with a soft laugh. I smiled at the memory. It felt like a lifetime ago when innocence shielded us from complications. "We were so carefree back then," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. Suddenly, he turned to me with earnestness in his eyes. "Do you think we're being foolish?" His question lingered in the air like a storm cloud ready to unleash its rain. I hesitated to answer. Guilt tugged at my conscience while desire battled for dominance. Before I could respond, footsteps approached from inside the house. My heart sank as I recognized my partner's voice calling for me. Emma? Where are you? Panic surged again as we exchanged glances filled with urgency. We quickly stepped back into the shadows of the porch, hoping to remain unseen. I can't keep doing this, I murmured under my breath as anxiety tightened its grip on me. He reached for my hand and squeezed it gently, grounding me amidst chaos swirling around us. Just one more night, he urged softly, desperation creeping into his tone. Tonight is family dinner night, I reminded him, feeling torn between loyalty and longing. It was supposed to be a time for connection but now felt like an impending storm ready to break loose. As we made our way back inside, laughter erupted from the living room again, a reminder of what was at stake if anyone discovered our secret. My mother had planned this gathering meticulously, her excitement radiated through every corner of the cabin. I sat at the dining table surrounded by familiar faces, my partner across from me and him seated just beside him. Each bite of food tasted bittersweet as tension simmered beneath our smiles. Conversations flowed around us while I stole glances at him when no one was looking. His presence felt intoxicating yet perilous. Then came a knock at the door that shattered our fragile atmosphere. A family friend had arrived unexpectedly early for dinner preparations. My heart raced again as everyone turned their attention towards the entrance. It felt like an omen signaling that everything might soon unravel. Who could that be? My mother asked with curiosity lacing her voice while she moved toward the door with excitement written all over her face. As she opened it wide, revealing another family member standing there with bags in hand, dread washed over me like cold water. Surprise! We decided to stay longer, they announced cheerfully before stepping inside without hesitation. My stomach dropped as their words hung in the air like an unwanted truth. This would complicate everything further than I ever anticipated. I exchanged a quick glance with him across the table, his expression mirroring mine, shock mixed with apprehension about what lay ahead now that more eyes were upon us than before. The evening continued on amidst forced laughter and strained conversations. Every moment stretched painfully long under scrutiny as secrets loomed larger than life itself within these walls filled with love yet entangled by betrayal. As dessert was served and stories shared around candlelight flickering softly against darkened corners of this cabin's sanctuary turned prison, I couldn't shake off how precarious our situation had become, nor could I ignore how quickly everything could spiral out of control if we weren't careful enough moving forward. And then it happened, amidst laughter echoing all around us. A sudden silence fell upon everyone present when someone mentioned rumors circulating about relationships within families during vacations. The air shifted, tension thickening as the laughter faded into murmurs. I felt my heart race, a mix of dread and exhilaration coursing through me. My cousin's son, Alex, glanced at me, his eyes filled with a question I was not ready to answer. I could sense the weight of unspoken words hanging between us, and I knew we had to tread carefully. "Did you hear about the Hendersons?" someone asked, breaking the silence. They had quite the scandal last summer. The conversation drifted toward gossip, but my mind was elsewhere. I caught Alex's eye again. He raised an eyebrow as if to say, "What now?" I forced a smile that felt more like a grimace. After dinner, everyone dispersed to their corners of the cabin. My mother settled into her favorite chair by the fireplace, engrossed in her book. My partner was busy cleaning up in the kitchen. This moment felt like our last chance before reality crashed down on us again. "Let's step outside," Alex whispered urgently. We slipped out onto the porch, where the cool night air wrapped around us like a comforting blanket. The stars twinkled overhead, oblivious to our turmoil below. "Do you feel guilty?" he asked suddenly, his voice low and serious. I hesitated, grappling with my emotions. "It's complicated," I finally replied. The truth was that guilt gnawed at me relentlessly, but there was also something intoxicating about our connection that I couldn't ignore. "Complicated how?" he pressed, stepping closer as if daring me to reveal more. The intimacy of this moment felt dangerous yet exhilarating. "I don't want to hurt anyone," I admitted quietly. Just then, a loud crash echoed from inside the cabin. My mother had dropped her book in surprise at something she overheard. "What was that?" Alex asked nervously. "I don't know," I replied quickly, glancing back at the door as it creaked open slightly. My heart raced as we both stood frozen in place. Before we could react further, my partner emerged from the kitchen with a frown etched across his face. "What are you two doing out here?" he questioned sharply. The casualness of his tone didn't match the suspicion lacing his words. "Just getting some fresh air," I said too quickly. It sounded weak even to my own ears. He nodded slowly but didn't seem convinced. "Dinner's almost ready for cleanup, we should all be together." His tone shifted subtly, I could sense he was watching us closely now. As we returned inside, laughter erupted once more among family members gathered around the table for dessert discussions. But my mind raced with thoughts of what might happen next if this secret relationship continued unchecked. "Did you hear? Aunt Clara and Uncle Mike are staying longer than they planned," one of my cousins announced cheerily from across the room. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Extended family meant more eyes watching us closely and more chances for discovery. Alex's expression mirrored my concern. This would complicate everything further. "Great," I muttered under my breath while trying not to attract attention from anyone nearby. I needed clarity on our situation before it spiraled completely out of control again. Perhaps tomorrow we could talk privately somewhere safe away from prying ears? But would that even be possible now? As family members began clearing plates and chatting animatedly about their plans for tomorrow's hike through Sedona's breathtaking landscape, a beautiful distraction from our mounting tension, I caught Alex's gaze once more across the room. It conveyed urgency mixed with uncertainty that mirrored my own feelings perfectly. The night wore on with laughter echoing throughout every corner of our cozy cabin sanctuary, but beneath it all lurked an undeniable truth. Things were growing increasingly complicated between us both emotionally and within this family dynamic surrounding us all. And just when I thought we might navigate through without further incident, a voice broke through. "Emma, can you help me find those old family photos?" My mother called out cheerfully from behind a stack of boxes in another room, a request that threatened everything we'd tried so hard to keep hidden thus far. My stomach dropped at her words. This could lead to discoveries neither Alex nor I were prepared for right now. I turned to Alex, panic evident in my eyes. "We can't let her see us like this." His expression mirrored my concern, yet there was a hint of defiance in his gaze. We had been tiptoeing around our feelings, but now the stakes felt unbearably high. "Let's just go outside," he suggested, his voice low. I nodded, grateful for the escape route. We slipped out the back door, the sun casting long shadows across the deck. The vibrant red rocks of Sedona loomed in the distance, a stark contrast to the chaos brewing within the cabin. Once outside, I took a deep breath of the crisp air. "What if she finds out?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex stepped closer, his presence grounding me amidst the turmoil. "We won't let that happen," he assured me, though uncertainty lingered in his tone. As we stood there, lost in thought, I noticed a small wooden box nestled among some rocks nearby. Curiosity piqued, I walked over and opened it. Inside lay an old love letter, faded and yellowed with age. It spoke of passion and longing between two distant relatives, their words echoing our own hidden desires. "This is unexpected," Alex said as he joined me by the box. "It's like history repeating itself." I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine at the thought of our connection being compared to theirs. Before I could respond, my mother's cheerful voice echoed from inside again. "Emma, are you out there?" My heart raced at her call, her timing was uncanny. "We should go back," I urged Alex reluctantly. Wait, he said suddenly, grabbing my arm gently. We need to talk about this. His eyes bore into mine with an intensity that made it hard to think straight. Do you really want to keep hiding? The question hung heavy in the air between us as we weighed our options, continue down this path or step back from the edge we had both teetered on for too long. I don't know, I admitted finally, feeling overwhelmed by emotions that threatened to spill over. Just then, my mother appeared at the doorframe of the cabin, her expression shifting from confusion to concern as she noticed our tense stance. What's going on? She asked softly but firmly. Caught off guard by her sudden appearance and worried about what she might have overheard, I stammered for words while Alex stepped back slightly as if distancing himself from me would somehow shield us both from her scrutiny. Nothing. Just looking at some old stuff, I managed to say awkwardly. My mother raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. Instead, she turned back toward the house with an air of disappointment that stung more than any confrontation could have. We should go inside, she called over her shoulder before disappearing back into the cabin. Alex and I exchanged glances filled with unspoken words, fear mingled with a flicker of resolve igniting within us both. Inside once more among family chatter and laughter felt suffocating after our moment outside. The weight of secrets clung heavily to every interaction as we tried to act normal while tension simmered beneath the surface. Later that evening during dinner, a noisy affair filled with stories and laughter, I caught Alex's eye across the table where he sat beside his mother. His expression was serious yet pleading as if silently urging me to make a choice before it was too late. I took a deep breath before speaking up amidst lively conversations around us. Can we talk after dinner? Alone? His gaze sharpened at my request. There was no turning back now as everyone else continued their discussions oblivious to our silent turmoil brewing just beneath their laughter. After dinner concluded and dishes were cleared away, the atmosphere shifted slightly as family members began dispersing into different rooms or heading outside for fresh air, leaving just us two alone in a dimly lit corner of the living room where shadows danced against walls adorned with family photos capturing happier times. What did you want to say? He asked quietly once we were finally alone together again, eyes searching mine for clarity amidst uncertainty looming over us both like storm clouds threatening rain at any moment. I think we need to decide what this is, I replied cautiously. Each word felt heavier than lead as reality settled around us like fog creeping through trees at dusk. A reminder that nothing remained simple anymore between us. Either way forward would come with consequences neither could ignore forever. Just then, a loud crash echoed from outside followed by startled voices rising above one another, drawing our attention away from our conversation, abruptly leaving behind unresolved feelings hanging in midair unanswered while adrenaline surged through me anew, pushing aside fears momentarily as curiosity took hold, instead leading me toward windows, overlooking chaos unfolding beyond glass panes, illuminating night sky now filled with stars twinkling brightly overhead, contrasting darkness below where families gathered still unaware danger lurked nearby. What was that? Alex whispered urgently, glancing toward window before turning back toward me, searching again for reassurance even though uncertainty still lingered thickly between us both despite everything else happening beyond those walls surrounding us tightly now. The crash had jolted us both, and I felt the tension in the air shift. Alex's eyes darted toward the window, his expression a mix of concern and curiosity. I could sense that we were on the brink of something monumental, yet the chaos outside was pulling me back to reality. As I moved closer to the window, I caught a glimpse of my mother rushing out of the cabin, her silhouette framed by the porch light. "Stay here," she called out, her voice cracking with urgency. We exchanged a quick glance. There was a shared understanding that our moment was slipping away. The air felt charged with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. "Should we go help?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex hesitated, his brow furrowing as he weighed our options. "I think we should," he finally replied, his determination evident despite the risk of being seen together. We stepped away from the shadows of our secret and moved toward the door, each step heavy with consequence. Outside, chaos reigned as family members gathered around an overturned table filled with snacks and drinks scattered across the ground. Laughter mixed with shouts echoed through the night as everyone tried to make sense of what had happened. My heart raced. Amidst this distraction, we might find a way to escape unnoticed. "Are you okay?" I heard my mother ask someone in the crowd as she knelt beside them. Relief washed over me when I realized it was just a minor mishap, nothing serious. But as I turned back to Alex, I saw an intensity in his gaze that made my heart skip a beat. "I want us to be together," he said suddenly, his voice low but firm amid the noise surrounding us. The weight of his words hung in the air between us like an unbreakable bond forged in secrecy and desire. "I can't keep hiding this." My mind raced at his declaration. Could we really pursue this openly? But before I could respond, a family member spotted us standing close together and raised an eyebrow in suspicion. "What are you two doing over there?" they called out playfully but with an edge that made my stomach drop. "Just checking on things," I replied too quickly, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. The moment had slipped away again. Fear clawed at me as external pressures mounted from all sides. As we retreated into relative safety inside the cabin once more, Alex turned to me with determination etched across his face. "We can't keep pretending," he insisted softly yet resolutely. The sincerity in his eyes ignited something deep within me, a flicker of hope mingled with dread. "I know," I admitted reluctantly, feeling trapped between my desires and responsibilities. Just then, my partner appeared at the doorframe, looking disheveled but concerned. "Emma. There you are. I've been looking for you," he said breathlessly. His sudden appearance sent shockwaves through me. How long had he been searching? The tension thickened again as he stepped further into the room and looked between us, his gaze lingering on our proximity with growing suspicion. "I thought we could reconnect tonight," he suggested gently but firmly, unaware of what had transpired behind closed doors just moments before. My heart sank at his words. It felt like another layer of complication added to an already tangled web. "Sure," I managed to reply while glancing at Alex, who stood silently beside me, both of us caught in this precarious moment where everything seemed poised to unravel at any second. The night wore on with laughter echoing from outside while inside my mind spun wildly between choices and consequences, each decision weighing heavier than before as family dynamics shifted around us like shifting sands beneath our feet. Suddenly another crash sounded from outside. A loud cheer erupted among relatives who seemed oblivious to our internal turmoil brewing just beneath surface tensions rising steadily within these walls surrounding us tightly now. "What was that?" My partner frowned again, glancing toward window where shadows danced against light pouring into room, illuminating faces filled with joy. Unaware danger lurked nearby still. Before I could answer or even process what was happening next, my phone buzzed sharply against wood surface, drawing attention away from momentarily pressing issues surrounding us both. I glanced down quickly, recognizing it wasn't just any message, it was from one of my partner's friends questioning my loyalty directly. "Are you okay? Heard some rumors about you." Panic surged through me again as realization hit hard like ice water splashing against skin, unexpectedly jolting senses awake, forcing clarity upon confusion swirling endlessly around, heart racing faster than ever before now. "Who is it?" Alex asked softly, studying my face, intently searching for answers while uncertainty hung thickly still between us both despite everything else happening beyond those walls surrounding tightly now. "I need some air," I muttered almost instinctively, stepping toward door leading outside where chaos continued unabated, this time feeling less like chaos but more like impending doom lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for right moment strike. I stepped outside, the cool air of Sedona hitting me like a slap. My heart raced, not just from the encounter with Alex but from the weight of what lay ahead. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the patio. I could hear laughter from inside, oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface. As I leaned against the railing, I tried to collect my thoughts. The family outing planned for later felt like a ticking time bomb. Everyone was anticipating a day of fun, while I was wrestling with guilt and fear. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from my partner's friend, questioning my loyalty. "What have you done?" it read. My stomach twisted at the thought of being exposed. "Emma." My mother's voice called out from inside, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. "We're leaving soon. Can you help with the snacks?" I took a deep breath and forced myself to smile as I walked back in, hiding the turmoil within me. The kitchen was bustling, everyone seemed so carefree. I grabbed a bag of chips and joined them at the table. Laughter erupted as my cousin shared an embarrassing childhood story about me. It felt surreal to be laughing while knowing that everything was about to change dramatically. Just then, Alex entered the room, his expression unreadable as he caught my eye briefly before looking away. "Are you okay?" he whispered as he passed by me, concern etched on his face. I nodded slightly but felt anything but okay. A knot tightened in my chest as I realized how close we were to being discovered. Moments later, we gathered outside for our outing, everyone eager and excited for a hike along one of Sedona's scenic trails. The vibrant colors of nature surrounded us. It was beautiful yet suffocating at the same time. As we walked in a group, I could feel Alex's presence beside me, an electric tension lingering in the air that no one else seemed aware of. Suddenly, my mother called for everyone to stop and gather around her for a group photo. "Smile," she instructed brightly as she set up her camera on a nearby rock. As we posed together, Alex stood close behind me. His hand brushed against mine briefly before he pulled away again. "Let's do something adventurous next," someone suggested after snapping several pictures. "How about exploring those caves?" A murmur of agreement spread through our group while I felt dread settle heavily within me. "I'm not sure that's a good idea," I replied hesitantly, glancing sideways at Alex who looked equally apprehensive. "Why not?" "It'll be fun," someone chimed in enthusiastically. "Yeah. Let's go," another added without noticing our hesitation. With little choice left but to join in on this ill-fated adventure, we headed toward the caves, my heart racing with every step closer to potential disaster waiting inside those darkened walls. As we entered the cave's mouth, dim light illuminated rough stone walls etched with age-old markings, an eerie reminder of how secrets could linger over time just like ours did now. Laughter echoed off the walls while anxiety twisted tighter around me. Every joke felt like nails on a chalkboard amidst mounting tension simmering beneath our surface interactions. Suddenly there was an unexpected shout from deeper within, the sound echoing ominously through narrow passages ahead where shadows danced menacingly against rocky surfaces illuminated only by our flashlights flickering uncertainly ahead. "What was that?" My voice trembled slightly despite trying to maintain composure among family members who laughed it off nervously while continuing deeper into darkness surrounding us all now. But then came another shout, this time clearer and more urgent than before, "Help! Someone!" My heart sank as realization washed over me. This wasn't just playful banter anymore. It felt like something had gone horribly wrong within those shadows where light dared not reach.